As the influence from tech giants has vastly grown, we spoke with former Secretary of Defense Ash Carter to discuss the difference between how things are run currently versus how things were in the past.
Obviously, it's the vastest place on Earth, by far and away the largest enterprise on Earth, so it dwarfs anything else. So, for example, just here, since we're in California, on the R&D front, the DoD does more R&D than Apple, Microsoft, and Google combined. It has more employees than the top largest employers in the United States combined, more real property than the state of Pennsylvania. So there are lots of different corners of it. And since I worked at every level right up until the 1, 2, and 3, number 1, number 2, number 3 jobs, all the way back since 1981, I got to see all the corners of it. So I try to take people around all the corners. And I think in terms of lessons, there are two things. The first of all, we tend to think of leadership as taking places in a new direction. And that's really important in today's defense. We need to get back to countering Russia and China with high tech. We need to anticipate parts of the types of battle like cyber and space that haven't been part of warfare over the course of history. So we do need to lead people in new directions. At the same time, you need to reinforce whatever is good in your organization. And unless you're a leader who has a hopelessly broken organization, which I hope you don't, the Department of Defense is far from broken. I was proud of it. I was proud of its traditions. We have a lot of great people in there. We don't do everything perfectly by any means, but we do a lot. And above all, I'm proud of the values that it stands for. I always used to say, we take our American values to the battlefield. I make no apologies about that. And so it's important constantly to reinforce the good. I need to say that today because you see so much conduct in Washington, but also elsewhere, that I never tolerated in the Department of Defense. I didn't allow that kind of stuff. That was inconsistent with the profession of arms, in my view, and the view of all my major officers. And I fired officers for that kind of thing.
How did you're a nuclear physicist with a PhD. How did you wind up in national security?
It's an interesting story. The people who taught me physics way back were the Manhattan Project generation. Now, they were proud of what they had done, which we would today call creating a disruptive technology, right? Nuclear weapons. They were proud of that. They thought it had ended World War II and kept the peace through the Cold War. But they also felt the tremendous responsibility for having been associated with something that posed an existential threat, and still does, to humanity. And so they taught me that as somebody with knowledge, I had responsibility too. And that impulse is what slowly got me more and more involved in defense, because I was participating in decisions where my voice, my knowledge, made a difference in how it came out. And these were decisions of great consequence. For a young person, I was in my 20s, that is the exciting cocktail, right? Things that really matter, things of great consequence, and you matter to those things that matter. And that's what drew me in. And I've been trying to rekindle some of that in the tech community today and say, you may be doing something very important in your company, and I respect that. But it doesn't have to be defense, but public service in general. There's nothing better than waking up in the morning and being part of something bigger than yourself. And when I would invite techies to come into the Pentagon, and I always said, you can keep your hair orange and all that stuff. We're not going to make you look like us. I said, you're going to have the best experience of your life, and they did.
So what else do you offer them at the Department of Defense? Did you, and what do you think is being offered today? Because as you said, the Manhattan Project generation, that's when we were really seeing a lot of scientific progress being made in the public sector. As you say now, you look at companies like Apple and Alphabet and those Silicon Valley firms you're talking about, there's really a war for talent amongst those firms. They're offering competitive pay, they offer fun offices, right? They offer the ability to have orange hair. So how does the Department of Defense sort of compete with that?
Well, you compete on mission. We can't compete on money. let's be realistic. We're not going to be able to do that. But we compete on mission. People want to do something that really matters. And they find, and I think they're right, that these are the big issues of our time. I also think that you made a very important point, which is it's not like when I started out, even though I talked about how big the Defense Department still is, when I started out, all the stuff of consequence came out of the Defense Department. The internet, the microchip, it all came from us, and I remember that. But that's not the way it is anymore. There's a lot of technology on the outside. And so if you're able to, you don't have to come inside. You need to bring what's outside to us. And we on the inside need to have a different mindset where we don't try to make everything ourselves. We have to relate to the commercial and global tech community. So we have to be flexible in dealing with you because we need you.